Good morning, everybody. It's Lori with Sugar Melts, and today I'm going to show you how to make a 5-panel card. I make these all the time. I just love them. I'll show you a couple of samples here. I've been making them like crazy because, as you know, I've been on this mission to use up retired colors. So I had a lot of Dapper Denim. And so this is what the card looks like, as you can see here. And it opens up once and then twice. And so you end up with 5 panels. And I just love this card for so many reasons. I get to use a lot of stamps. I can use a lot of color. It's great for communicating more than just a simple message. I've got hello, just a note to a wonderful friend, enjoy your special day, happy birthday. It just feels like a very complete card. I use this a lot in the office because so many times we'll have lots of people that want to sign a card. And so this way there can be lots of space, even on the back. You can put a white piece of paper for people to sign the card, which I just think is fabulous. So I make this a lot. Here's some of the other ways I've made it. Here's the blue with the Dapper Denim with the grapefruit grove. Very pretty. I used a lot of different kind of wildflower stamps in here. And then I got it a kick because I liked it and I wanted to use up my Dapper Denim. So here's a few more ways that I used it. Here we go again, just different ideas. So I'm going to show you first, before we get started, because I've made this many times, a couple of things I've learned along the way, a couple of things that don't work, and hopefully you won't make these mistakes. Now this one is actually a 7-panel card. It's quite enormous, isn't it? And I do like it. It's kind of fun because it's this old retired black and white paper that I love so much. And I was literally able to use a different DSP on each panel. So that's fun. And I used different dies for each of the middles. I was just playing. There's not a lot of room to write on this one, so it's not a great card for that respect. It's kind of big, but kind of cute. So there's that. Now with this one, I really do love this one. I think this turned out so beautiful. What I would do different though, so when we're putting this together, you're going to have 2 big pieces of your base. This piece back here, and then these pieces in this other piece here. There'll be a little flap on the back that you secure to your base. Well, what I did different on this one, I don't know if you can see it really well, but I glued it to the outside because I thought I might see it on the inside. Well, you really don't see it on the inside, and unfortunately there's so much pressure from the weight of the paper that it comes loose. No matter how much glue I put on it, it's really not as secure as I would like. So in the future, I would not put this little flap when you'll see it when we do the fold. It's a little 1/4-inch fold. I put it on the inside, and it really is buried under the mat and the pictures. So just keep that in mind when you're putting yours together. And this one, another kind of like, what did I do? So I changed around. You've got your small piece here, or smaller section, and then the 2 larger sections. Well, I thought it would be fun to see what happened if I put it here, and you can see it just doesn't fold well. It needs this piece to be bigger to go all the way to the end and then have a little one. So now I've got this big gap. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this and you see 1, 2, 3, 4, that 2 and 3, it really is prettier if they're the same size. So we're going to cut out a little section here. You don't want to cut it all the way for the first and second, only the first section. And I'll point that out as we go. Okay, what else did I want to show you about this card? So this one is probably my favorite, and this is going to be what we are basically recreating today. I used the 2 pieces, so we'll have the one 5.5 by 4 1/4, and then the larger piece here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. I only cut the little section here so it folds beautifully. I use an assortment of stamps, And on this one, as you can see, I don't even have any sentiments. So I can leave that for later. That way, if it's a birthday card or just a thank you card, or if it's a work thing, happy retirement, I've left it blank and it's ready to be used for anything. I just think it's so incredibly pretty. I also used, what's different on this one, sometimes I'll just use a solid color DSP. Or solid color cardstock, I'm sorry, for the matte. And on this one, I used DSP, and I'm really happy with it. I'm really happy. Partly because it's the peacock, pretty peacock, and I'm just so in love with pretty peacock. I think it's such a great color. Okay, so let's get started. Here we go. I'm going to talk first about the pieces I have, and then we'll talk about what size they are and how to score them. Okay? So, first off, your base. This is just your standard 5.5 by 4 1/4. Just get a piece of that. And then from a piece of 8.5 by 11, that's what's also different about this card than many of the other 5-panel cards you've seen, is that this is made using 8.5 by 11. I'm not using 12 by 12. I don't have a lot of 12 by 12. My 12 by 12 is DSP. I don't buy my cardstock that way because, frankly, you can't. In the catalog, you cannot buy a pack of Pretty Peacock in 12 by 12 paper. You have to buy 8.5 and 11. So I decided to see if I could make it work, and I'm really happy with the results. So this piece will be 10 1/4 by 5. So you're just going to take your 11-inch piece and you're going to cut off 3/4 of an inch, and then you're going to take your 8.5 side and you're just going to cut it back to 5. Okay? So these are these pieces. Then for your mat and for your, let me get my measurements a little closer. For the mat and the base layer that you'll stamp on, you're going to have for your 5.5 by 4 1/4. This is going to be 5 1/4 by 4. Oops. And this piece is going to be 5 by 3 1/4. 3 3/4, I'm sorry. So basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the size of the panel. After we have the folds, each panel will have its own dimensions, and I'm bringing it in by 1/8. Okay? Just bringing it in by, 1/8 of an inch, so that you have your pieces, your pieces. You can either bring it in by 1/2 or 1/4 if it's too close for you to do with 1/8. If you can't get the measurements right or the glue just, it sticks too fast, do 1/4 of an inch. It's really fine. And then for the next layer, the next 2 panels, they're going to be the same size. You're going to have 2 of these. So you're going to have 2 mats that are 4 3/4 by 3 1/4. So 4 3/4 by 3 1/4, okay? And then the layer that you'll stamp on top is going to be 4.5 by 3, and there's 2 of these. And then for the first 2 little panels, your mat is going to be, whoops, slid underneath there. The mat will be 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, 2 of those. And the layer is going to be 4 by 2.5, and you'll have 2 of those. Okay? So let's just set those over here for the moment, and we're going to do some scoring. Couple other things you may want to grab if you're following along or doing this with me. Pick your colors. I like to just use 3 colors. I have my primary color of my cardstock. I have something to complement it. Today we're going to use Merry Merlot. Blackberry Bliss would be great with this. Yeah, I think just a really bright color if you're using Pretty Peacock. I like to have a little black ink or gray or crumb cake, some kind of neutral that I can just work with. And then I often have something around like either gold or silver or copper, some kind of sparkle, because I just love sparkle. So, okay. So, we're going to take this is our large panel. This is 10 1/4 by 5. We're going to make several score lines. The first one is going to be at 3 inches. So this is going to be for panels 1 and 2, because we flip it over. Then we go over to 6.5. So panel 3 is going to be 3.5 inches. And then we're going to score at exactly 10. And the reason we do that is because 3.5 on top of 6.5 equals 10. So these two panels are going to be the same size. And then we have our little 1/4 inch that we're going to fold over to secure to that base. Okay? I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, get your bone folder. Okay, and I always like to have a card with me just to make sure I'm folding it in the right direction. So there's the base, so it's going to fold back like that. There we go. Did I already screw it up? See, I already messed it up, didn't I? How did I mess that up? I don't know. Nope, there it is. That's the right direction. There we go. See, this is why I have to have the model there. Just makes so much sense. So if you go to make this card later, just pull up this section and you'll go, what was that pause? Where did she mess up? That was it. I always seem to mess up the pause, that little 1/4 inch there. So what I need to do now is drop off this little 1/4 inch, but I wanted you to see how this first part came together. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is open this back up. And I'm going to come down from 5 down to 4.5. I'm just going to drop it 1/2, and I'm only going to go to that first little mark right there. Okay? Easy peasy. Let's get that out of the way. And so now I'm just going to trim off this little section. And if you want to use some kind of cutting machine, that's fine. I just happen to think scissors work best for this, so I don't accidentally cut too far if I'm using like my guillotine or something. I can't navigate that well. I don't trust myself. So there's your card. Does this make sense now? So what we'll do later is we'll secure that 1/4 fold to here, and this is how it will open. Okay? Perfect. So now we get to start some stamping. The way I like to do this, though, to make sure I add some depth, is I stamp onto this cardstock with the same monochrome color, and it just gives it a little bit more dimension. Now, I was having so much fun stamping yesterday. When my boyfriend got off work, he said, my God, were you arrested yesterday? Because it looked like I had been fingerprinted. I had so much ink on me. I'll show you what I did, in fact. So I was, once again, using up retired paper and cardstock. So I was working with my last Tranquil Tide, and I was just not feeling inspired. There's nothing wrong with Tranquil Tide, but once you run into Peacock, I mean, I just love Peacock so much. So here I used the new In the Pines stamp set, and how pretty is that? And it just turned out to be such a beautiful card. Can you see that? So that's another fun fold that we'll do that's super easy. But it just turned out to be lovely. So I have a whole bunch of Christmas cards that I made yesterday. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? So let's go ahead and do some real quick stamping. What I like to do is I use one of the stamps from, I got a whole bunch of stamps pulled out, Timeless Textures. I just love this stamp set, and I'm using this stamp right here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's the third one. But really, any one of these stamps would work great for this component. Okay, so this is all I do. I just kind of pounce around it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because you're going to put a mat on this that's going to cover up a lot of that. Okay, so here's the card. So in order to do, the hardest one on here is really this first panel. So you want to be careful not to get it onto the back side, which won't have a mat on it. So I fold it back like that. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So then I can just go around and do the entire inside, and then on the folds, we'll stamp in those areas. Okay? And this is large enough with the mats that I can just do one and it'll cover up that that last little crease. Okay, so then we go into the folds, fold them over. Here we go. And I think I've got all the panels now stamped. Perfect. So we'll set that aside for a minute. And then I'm going to take each one of the DSP mats and I'm going to stamp on them too. The DSP is so pretty, but I just think a little extra color just seems to give it a little more depth, a little more dimension, a little more interest. Super fast. Makes a mess. You can see why I look like I've been arrested yesterday. I just had ink all over the place. And again, this one doesn't have to be perfect either because you're going to layer your stamp side on top of this. If you didn't catch the measurements for the mats and the layers, just remember to go in either 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch for each layer, whatever you prefer, however you like, however much mat you prefer to see, and you'll have the dimensions perfect. Okay, there we go. So the mat is done, and then I'm also going to do the same thing on each one of these pages here, the little stamping layers, and then we're going to change our paper out because I will be making a mess. So it's really only on the white that you see the actual pattern. I don't put the whole stamp on. I just really like the edge because I like it to be a little more of that watercolor, abstract. That way things aren't so precise, but there's so many ways to use this. I'll show you next the different stamps that I've picked out for today. I've already mounted them to save some time, and they come from a lot of different stamp sets. So again, I encourage you, break out your retired sets, break out your favorite ones, find the ones from different sets that kind of complement, and this is just such a great project to be really creative on because you have so many opportunities. Okay, let's get a fresh piece of paper now. There we go. Okay, and so now we can do the stamping on each of these cards. I'll show you some of the sets that I'm working from today. Oh my gosh, so many sets. Let's see. So from Positive Thoughts, this is such a beautiful set. I'm using the big leaf pattern on here, and I think it complements so well with this retired kinda eclectic. I love this leaf pattern here. In fact, after I got this, the Positive Thoughts, I found this one retired on eBay, and I bought it just for this. I was really happy with that. For this one, I'm the very Versailles. I have the leaf mounted. We'll see if I use it. I've also got the script mounted because I think the script on here is really pretty. And from French Foliage, I also have the script mounted and this beautiful aspen leaf. From First Frost, we'll see, but I pulled this one out, this little bush down here. Love that one. And from Petal Palette, I love this leaf on here, so that's mounted for us to possibly use. And from Blooms and Wishes, I do love a lot of the little leaves, so I have them mounted in case we want to just add a little something. I also have a couple of others that I don't even know where they came from. It's a couple years ago, because the wood blocks, we all know how much space they take up. So I just got to removing them one night from all the blocks. And it was a little chaotic, I have to say, because I just got rid of all of them really fast. And so I put them all into different containers. I've got my flowers, I've got my wildlife, I've got my sentiments. And so I'm really not sure where these even come from, but I do tend to use them a lot. So I cannot tell you where they came from, but you'll see them on the cards here in a little bit. And hopefully you'll say, oh, I know where that is. Feel free to leave it in the comments for others in case you recognize where the stamps come from. Okay, So I am probably going to start with the largest one because I do love this positive thoughts leaf. I just think it's so pretty. So let's go ahead. And this process is also very forgiving because you can stamp off, and if it's not perfect, you can stamp over it. So I just think it's such a great process. Okay, so we've got that already there. That's pretty. Leave that one for now. Go on to my next image, and I'll do the one from Kinda Eclectic. Start with that. Stamp off, and then I'll flip it upside down. Stamp on, stamp off. Perfect. That's two. And for this one, oh, I'll do the big drop down one. This is a big stamp. On your big stamps, always feel free to flip it upside down. I think sometimes it can be a little easier to make sure you get good coverage that way. There we go. And I want it a little bit off. Don't want it perfectly solid on there. Push down. Fun. How cute is that? And then just to add a little bit of depth. I don't think there's a lot of ink left, so we'll just add a little bit there. Perfect. Okay. And then we're almost done here with this base stamping of what we're gonna kind of be working off of. So get the bone folder out of the way. And then this is the one from Petal Palette from several years ago. Oh, this was a popular step, wasn't it? Okay, I'll do another one on there, get a little bit darker. Perfect. Okay. And then for what will probably be the front panel, maybe not, we'll see. I'm just going to add some of this aspen leaf here. There we go. Very pretty. Love, love, love. Okay, so now what I want to do, I'm going to add a little bit of something to these. So I've got this stamp here. So I'm just going to go kind of back in, and I like to just sort of backfill here. Just that. I know. Can you see me afterwards cleaning all these stamps? I know. You're thinking, why does she use so many stamps? I don't know. I guess because I can. So this is that one stamp set that I said I don't even know where I got it from. Don't even remember what it is anymore. But it's just too cute. So I just keep using it. There we go. That's two. For this one, let's see. Oh, I've got these. These are really pretty. Pop that in there. Pop that in there. And then there. Okay. And then for this one I think I want to do maybe the script. So I'm going to break out the script here. And if you can't remember which one is the top and the bottom, because sometimes I look at the scripts and I think, which one is it? I encourage stamping on your scrap paper before you stamp on your card, because I can't tell you how many times I've made that mistake. See, there it's upside down because it's in French. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to stamp off and just do a light little script right like that. Just something a little subtle. There we go. That's fun. Do I want anything else on here? Yeah, maybe this one. The other side of that. Cute. Okay, there's that. And then on the big panel, let's see what we haven't used yet. So I still have my big script here. So flip this upside down. And this just kind of gives it that sort of worn, tattered look. And I think that's the upside. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'll just sort of lightly put it there. just to give it some depth. Sweet. Okay, little slide. That's okay, I can fix that. So I can fix everything. That's what we learn to do, right? So we'll go back in here and kind of blur that line a little bit. There we go. How pretty is that? Perfect. Okay, so we'll set that aside for now. And I feel like the card's coming together quick and easy. I did not use this stamp. That's okay, I'll make some more later, I'm sure. So now I'm going to switch color because I want to make sure I add in some of the Mary Merlot. In case you didn't know how to open the new stamp sets, go like that, you squeeze them at the top, flip them over. Lovely little trick. So I like to use the dots. Lots of stamp sets have different dots, and I just play with them on different sets. This one comes again from that Timeless Textures. This is the dot set from up here, and this other dot comes from in the pines that I was using yesterday for the Christmas cards. So I just cleaned it and thought, let's reuse it. Let's use it some more. So the dots again help add just a lot of texture, a little bit of contrast. So I just go around and add in. I just think the Mary Merlot looks so pretty with the pretty peacock. How lovely is this? I just go around. And I'll probably use both dots. That way each one will look a little different. I usually start with the four corners and then any solid block areas that just need to be sort of brightened up a little bit. Okay, one like there. Okay, and then I'll switch over to the one from Timeless Textures. These are bigger dots, and this seems to me a slightly bolder print, so it can probably support it. Okay. And just doing this together. I wonder if you're actually trying to follow me with your own stamp sets while you're doing this and which stamps you end up using. I'd love to see other people's creations and what they look like and ideas and things that I've never thought of and haven't seen. I just think that's such an important part of this community that we have together. Being creative, being supportive, having our creative outlet. I don't know about you, but after a long day of work or a long work week, I look forward to just playing with the stamps and being creative and seeing what happens. So, okay, I think we've got enough here that we can start to put this together. And I usually save these for last. I put the mat on first because then if I change my mind and I want to add more, it's just easier to add on a flat surface than once you start adding bulk and some glue under there. It can be a little less smooth for them. So this is the part where we're going to glue onto this 1/4 inch on the end, and we're going to glue it this way so that it's on top of the base. Does that make sense? On top of the base, not wrapped around, on top of, because otherwise it just comes loose on the back. Okay, so the way that I have found to be easiest for this, some scissors. I do like the tear and tape for this, and I use the smallest one that I can because then I'm less likely to have the glue kind of peeling out. And I just sort of eyeball it. So I know that this is 5 inches. So let's go about 5 inches. I try to go a little bit shy so nothing is hanging over the edge. Okay, so this is gonna go there. Okay, did I do okay here? 1, 2, 3, there we go. So then you know you press really hard down. We go to peel off this, and it will just peel off the outer layer and leave the glue behind if it's cooperating. Stamp side down. So I'm going to go in here There we go. So then when we flip it over, you can see the edge here a little bit. But when you go to put your mat down, it covers it up and you don't see it. So that's why I prefer to do it that way, and to have everything kind of smudged with the ink. I just think it blends in perfectly, and any little oopses or modifications are not even visible. So then I'm going to go in here. I did have one the other day, not sure which one of the cards it was. It was one of the ones I showed you, where the mat did not quite cover that seam, and that wasn't very pretty. So I recommend kind of starting to make sure that edge covers the seam first, and then everything else will fall into place perfectly, I promise. Okay, here we go. I do sometimes hate to cover up DSP that's so pretty, but it really does complement this well. I think it adds such character in the shadows. There we go. It's coming together. It is coming together. And then this is a great way to also use up DSP that, again, is retired, or if it's that one sheet in the pack that doesn't speak to you. What do I do with this sheet? I use the other 6 designs, but this one is not resonating with me. This is a great way to use it as a mat behind something like this with the dark colors or bright colors, wherever you're going with it. I think it just helps to bring out and complement the rest of the card. So now we have some choices to make. I guess the best thing to do is to start with the one that we know will go on the back, because that's not going to be a choice. So here goes our first stamp layer. Oh, so pretty. And then I'm going to lay these out and see what I think. I think I'll do it like this so that the 2 scripts are not right together. And that's why I like to start with the base, the big one in the back, of a little bit of glue there, as far as lining up my design. I also tend to, as you may have remembered from the other cards, I pull out all the little butterflies and dragonflies from my different sets, and I start mixing and matching them. Okay, so which one do I want them to see first? Do I want them to see that one first, or that one first? I think this should be first. Okay. And we don't have to put a sentiment on the whole thing. We can save the sentiment for later, or just handwrite in the sentiment. There we go. And done and done. How pretty is that? I hope you enjoyed this card. I'd love to see samples of what you create off of this, and we'll talk soon. Thanks so much. Bye guys. Have a great day.